Mo Salah's goals, the great rivalries of the Premier League and footballers' vaccinations. That's all coming up on Team 33. If you like this video and you want to get more off the ball content, just hit that subscribe button below. Let's get into it.
Team 33. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Stunning. It was absolutely stunning. I said it on the day and I'll repeat it now. Only one other player on the planet that could have scored that goal, and that was Leo Messi. It was the work of art, a rare thing of beauty. It needed no words as we looked at it time and time again on BN Sports. Even the great Richard Keys was blown away by Mohamed Salah's mazy run and as he fired the ball into the back of the net against Manchester City. Welcome along to Team 33, Enda here. And we are going to be talking about Mo Salah's goal. We're going to be talking about Liverpool. We're going to be talking about the great rivalries of the Premier League era. And to do that, I am joined on the line by Arthur O'Dea. Arthur, how are you getting on?
Not so bad, Enda. How are you?
I'm grand. We will also be joined by Colm Boohig very shortly. Don't call it a comeback, but he is making a dramatic comeback to the show after a while away. He was getting married and he even got his hair cut for the occasion. I'm not sure I'm okay with that, but he's always the drama queen is Callum Boohig, and he is coming into the show in dramatic effect as well. Let's start with the Liverpool goal here, Arthur. I say the Liverpool goal. It should be the Mo Salah goal. I mean, it seems that this is a truly unique goal, but then you've seen Mo Salah score 4 or 5, which are equally amazing in a similar way as well. What was your reaction when that goal went in?
It's just sort of disbelief. It's just kind of, I know exactly what you're saying. Like, you know almost what he's going to do. But I think the thing that kind of twisted it, even when he's kind of it appears he's going to switch onto the left, but takes it onto the right, that even harder angle. Just the speed of it. But it's just staggering. Like it's really when you watch it back, and I was watching it back again before we started chatting here, and like the way the ball is bouncing, it's not even, it's up and about. It is almost, the thing I immediately kind of thought of watching it back again was like, it's almost more so as if you're watching someone like a basketball player go in for a dunk, the way he's maneuvering around. The fact that he's controlling it as he is with his feet in such an unpredictable, that's just class. It really was something special. What do you make of it?
I can't believe that he was able to do the little maneuvers with his feet. My favorite little intricate part of that goal is when he switches the ball from his right to left, or his left to right foot, takes a touch with the right, and then brings it back onto the left before going past, I think it's Laporte in the end. And it was just, it was absolutely magic. The greatest crime of that goal is that it was not the winner, that Manchester City actually came back to score and equalize in that game. And that wasn't the culmination of what really was a fantastic game. The first half was, a little bit of a lull, but I was still amazed by watching this game at just the sheer speed of the play, the quality on show. And I sat there watching and I was like, these are easily the 2 best teams in the league and have been for the last 5 years. And you can tell that because almost watching it from a United perspective, I can't fathom United playing football to the same level in which these 2 teams were playing. And that's not to bring it into a United chat. I just thought the level that they were playing was like watching a Champions League final.
Yeah, it is like that. It's like when you, especially remember that distinction as well last year, kind of when football was kind of coming back, and then you see some of those Champions League games. Like you had a Premier League game basically every night, so you see the full kind of gamut of the quality available. But then you, the quality like of those, it's serious. I'd put Chelsea up there as well, to be honest. I do think maybe not in terms of like that, just the electricity of it sometimes, but I think they're thereabouts. But yeah, I mean, I'm always struck by, anytime watching City, how many chances, particularly they waste, but like there's so many times where that killer ball is played to perfection that like you think like I'm thinking even of the one where probably should have been a penalty with Foden going in, getting taken down by Milner, but that ball seems to be just every time. Like you're saying, it's the pace of it, the speed of it. It's so hard to keep up with. I cannot imagine what it must be like to play against.
Yeah, James Milner, probably the luckiest man on the planet to stay on the pitch during that game. That was, I saw several people comparing it to Gary Neville's performance against West Brom that made him retire, and I can imagine James Milner was feeling something similar in the first half, at least, against Phil Foden, who was just absolutely electric as well. It reminded me sort of, I can't remember the last great heavyweight boxing match. Maybe it was the first Joshua, who was it that he fought a couple of years ago, where it was just like end to end, both fighters just completely going at it and completely exhausted by the end of it. And that just seemed like what we were seeing. It was two superpowers going toe to toe. And it was one of the rare top 6 games that you get where both teams just properly went for it. It reminded me sort of, circa 2017 when these two sides were going for the title, and it was Klopp's heavy metal football, and they were just really just absolutely going for each other's heads. City looked like if they had a number 9 on that pitch, like Harry Kane, they probably could have scored about 4 or 5 in that first half.
I think you're spot on. It's the sheer amount of chances, and even the last time when I was watching last weekend when they played Chelsea as well, just the amount of chances they create, and like again, it's just I'm kind of, it's confusing a little bit because you kind of do think, well, they're not going to win every game 5 or 6-0, but they always seem to create enough chances. But I don't like, is it so simple then that if they have, say, Harry Kane, and if Harry Kane was bought in, is that a case then that maybe over the course of 38 games, that's the league stitched up for them or something up? But in a game like that, do you think it's going to make all the difference?
I think so. I genuinely think, like you said, the amount of times the ball went through across that 6-yard box where Harry Kane lives, and I just believe that he would have scored at least 1 in that game, if not 2, and especially the first half where Liverpool were, I'd say, quite flat, and Jurgen Klopp did a really good job of explaining that rare opportunity to see into the mind of Jurgen Klopp, who doesn't really give away his tactics all that often. I do want to bring someone in here. Colm Boohig is back. He is back on the show. Short-haired Colm Boohig. I already dissed you. I'm not going to diss you to your face. I already dissed you behind your back about cutting your hair, Colm. But let's talk about Liverpool, Man City. Did you watch the game first of all? Probably should have asked
great
that before
sign
the
of
show.
your character, Enda. A really great. I'd love to know it. I'm going to watch it back and see what you said.
Well, you see, I told you now. So you like I'm sort of doing it because I'm at least telling you that I spoke behind your back.
It's okay. It's kind of half cowardly. And Arthur and myself, this is the first time we've ever been on air together.
Yeah.
There you go. Is that correct calculation?
I know for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
I think so. I upgraded while you were off on your wedding.
And you're honoured. Liverpool, Man City. What's the question? The whole game, is it?
Firstly, I asked you, did you watch it? I didn't ask you before the show if you watched it before I asked you to come on yet. So what we were comparing it to, like a great heavyweight boxing match where both teams were just absolutely going for it. What was your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I thought Man City were unbelievable in the first half. And was it Damien Delaney said with ourselves this week, or somebody else said they thought it was a very poor first half? I thought City were great. I thought Liverpool were very average, and then the second half will go down as an all-time Premier League classic. There were so many good players in the pitch. It wasn't just Phil Foden and Mo Salah. There were so many really good, high-quality performers, and it was a real throwback to me for a few reasons. Like, number one, that Mo Salah goal, right? The individuality of that. First of all, you just wouldn't see that in the Pep Guardiola Manchester City team. He'd almost be criticised for doing that afterwards because, he didn't look up and find his man. And I found that the one thing missing in modern football, like, I think for me in my lifetime, this is the best that football has ever been on a technical level. It's just unbelievable. But what it has sacrificed is spontaneity and individuality. So that Salah goal, as much as I hate Liverpool, was just unbelievable. And it was, that finish as well. And it just made, I think, everybody make audible gasps around the world watching it, whether they had company or not in the room. And that's the reason we all watch football in the first place. So I really enjoyed it for that element. But just that it was a ding-dong classic. And when I couldn't believe Kevin De Bruyne scored, because I really thought Salah was going to be the last goal of the match. And when
that's what I said. I said at the start, it was a crime that it wasn't the winning goal.
No, it was brilliant from Manchester United perspective. But I thought, I can't believe there's another goal in this match. And then it was really, really hard to tell how it was going to end for the last 10 minutes. It was just a brilliant match. And it was a real throwback. It was like a real Premier League classic. And I don't think we've had too many of them in the last few years.
Well, the man who got the equalising goal for Man City initially, so Sadio Mane opens goal, Phil Foden is another player who had an amazing game altogether. And his goal was, absolutely exceptional as well. The area of the goal that he knocked it into, you're thinking that cannot get more into the side net. And then Mo Salah goes and does his. And it's almost from an impossible angle where you think Ederson is absolutely always going to save that. and it just finds the net somehow. But Bernardo Silva, what about Bernardo Silva? He was robbed of one of the absolute all-time great, I don't know, what would you call it? You'd have to give him the credit for the goal, even though it was Phil Foden that fluffed his lines in the end. But he tore apart the City side in the same manner in which Mo Salah tore apart, or he tore apart the Liverpool side the same way that Bernardo Silva or that Salah tore the Man City. I butchered that sentence, my God. But you know what I mean. And then he passes the ball off and it doesn't end up in a goal. So there could have been potentially 4 absolutely world-class goals in a world-class game. And that for me makes this rivalry amazing.
Why did Foden take a touch?
Yeah.
Why didn't he just slot it straight away? And like, he was getting so much praise from Gary Neville in particular, which was the ultimate battle job to split the man of the match award. It was insane. And like,
I actually forgot about that. Listen, we'll talk about it. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that.
I don't understand what he was talking about. But also, Salah's a funny one, right? I just want to put it out there because there's been a lot of love for Salah. So just for the sake of balance, right? As amazing as Salah is, he gives the ball away an awful lot. He's very poor in possession, like very poor in possession. But what he does is these moments, and he has so many of them, which makes him kind of unparalleled, really. I don't really know anybody else like Salah in the game. So obviously he's worth having in your team. But I do think that he cedes possession an awful lot for a world-class player. I don't know what you think. Like, it came to my mind. He had a 1-on-1 with, I think it was Laporte or maybe Diaz. It took nothing for them to take the ball off him. But then he'll do that, 5 or 6 times in a row, and then the 7th time he'll create history.
Okay, let's talk about Salah individually then, as you bring him up, because I actually have a few stats here. So in 2017, 2018, he broke Cristiano Ronaldo's goal scoring record, scoring 32 league goals. He also overtook Didier Drogba as the most goals scored by an African player in a Premier League season. In 2017-18, same season, he scored 24 in 38 games, and he has scored well over 100 goals in the Premier League at this point in time. He still probably has about 3 to 4 years left if he stays at Liverpool for the next couple of years. Is he, because I saw Kieran Cunningham say this, is he Liverpool's best player of the modern era?
I suppose you'd have to put him up there. I mean, just on the basis of what they've won, I suppose of what they've won. I suppose who are the main contenders? If you're talking about outright players, you're talking about probably.
So I just talking complete talent. You're talking like Virgil van Dijk is clearly one of them. You'd have to put Steven Gerrard in there, Luis Suarez. You're talking Xabi Alonso, even though probably he didn't have his best years at Liverpool. Probably his latter years are probably the peak Xabi Alonso.
Colm's friend
Fernando Torres, yeah. So I think I loved Luis Suarez simply because of who he is, and Mo Salah is such a complete opposite to what Luis Suarez is in terms of his mentality and the way that his brand is run. But I can't find a strong argument to suggest that Mo Salah is not Liverpool's best player.
Based on what?
Talent, ability, impact, what he brings to the team, what they have without him.
I don't know, lads. I think if Salah doesn't score that goal against Man City, we're all saying he's brilliant, but are we going back to this debate again? Like, it was just a brilliant moment. Like, I don't think he was. I think he was good in the game, but I think the moment was amazing, and he's capable of it. I thought Luis Suarez is a different level. I don't think I've ever seen anyone like him. Like, he used to do this move where he put it right next to the defender, which made it impossible for them to tackle him. It was genius. Like, it was really brilliant. And I just thought he talked about United fan. Like, I feared him, even more so than Torres, when Torres used to rip United apart regularly for a short spell. But I really feared Suarez. With Salah, I think you can nullify Salah's threat. But I suppose that Salah has above anybody else at all for Liverpool, and possibly with the exception maybe of Thierry Henry, is spontaneity in abundance, and it's very, very difficult to defend against. And I really enjoy watching him play, but I don't know. And then, like, Liverpool have had some brilliant Premier League strikers, and you've even not mentioned 2 that I would put in the discussion.
Who? Peter Crouch,
Harry
Kewell,
Andre Varanen. Yeah, no, they. I think peak Robbie Fowler from 1994 to 96, and Michael Owen from 1997 to 99 before the hamstring against Ellen Road. Like, Michael Owen is, it's very difficult to warm to him and all that, and going to United and the way the Newcastle transfer came about, and he clearly didn't want to play for them and all that. The rest of it, I think it's easy to forget how unbelievable Michael Owen was when he came on the scene. Like, the pace and finishing was akin to Brazilian Ronaldo, obviously not as good, but very similar. Robbie Fowler had this amazing ability to finish from any angle at all and had incredible technique. So they've had a serious cohort to choose from. Like, choosing a Liverpool front two R3 from the Premier League era, some task. Like, tougher than United, like tougher than maybe any other section of anybody else's team in Premier League history. Their level of striker is frightening.
Yeah, well, I think it also comes into the fact that those players were playing in lesser teams, I guess. Like, if you think of the early 2000s Liverpool side is a pretty strong side, but it's not a Champions League final 2 years in a row plus a Premier League title standard of side. Same with Steven Gerrard, who basically dragged them, albeit they did have some talent in that squad, but you could say that it's probably one of the worst squads that have won the Champions League. Then Luis Suarez dragged that Liverpool side to almost winning the Premier League title, and they collapsed in the last 2 years. I loved Luis Suarez. I think he's next level as well as you. But for me, I think it is between Salah and Suarez. I don't think Liverpool make those Champions Leagues. I don't think they win the Champions League. I probably make an argument they don't win the Premier League if they don't have Mo Salah in that side. I think he has been transformative in what he's done to the Liverpool team.
Yeah. I think you're spot on. I do think, though, it's very interesting, Colin, talking there about Suarez as well. Just like a little bit like Salah in that unique factor. Like, there was just something about him that was just, you couldn't really pin it down. Like, it kind of worked. It's almost like that thing everyone else is kind of like, it's just a different sort of way of thinking and approaching, a different sort of physicality, a different everything. Like, he just kind of, like, physiologically, he just seemed to be on a different wavelength to everyone around him. It was just really kind of unique. I suppose the fact as well, you have the added thing, I don't know how much it matters in it, but what he's gone on to do as well. He's still at it. Like, I know he's not the player he was, but he's still a serious threat.
Yeah, he's still scoring against Barcelona and still firing Atletico at the top of La Liga. And plus, you get an extra 10 points from me if you're an absolute bastard on the pitch as well. So Luis Suarez is well up there in terms of bastardness.
Well, that does go to show how brilliant he is, because it would have been easy for that to be the dominant feature of him as a player, is that, little biting spell he had for a couple of years. And like, that could be the dominant thing with Suarez. But it's actually not really. It's more of a side note. I know it's probably because it hasn't happened in a while. But, he is awful to play against. Like, like watching him, he's so annoying, and he's horrible to the referees, and he's he complains about everything, and he's like, gamesmanship, if you want to call it generously, a lot of the time. But that goes to show how brilliant he is that you don't even really talk about that much. It's just like, he's a phenomenal footballer who I always give extra credit to people who aren't blessed with natural athleticism. So he didn't have blistering pace. So I give him a little bit more than I would.
That's a nice way to say he was kind of fat.
No, I don't think he's ever. I think he's obviously in shape, but if you look at it, like, Salah has like naturally so fast. Michael Owen was. Torres is very quick before all the injuries, and Suarez never was blessed with that, but he was so sharp. Like those Norwich City goals. There's about 4 or 5 of them against Norwich alone.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I do find it funny, and it speaks to the level of player he is that you're able to describe his little biting phase as a little biting phase, as opposed to being a completely career-ending situation that happened more than once. So, I mean, there's obviously some darker elements to it as well, but sheer footballing ability, I think Suarez is definitely 1 or 2 for me, if not number 1 nailed down. Just before we finish up on Liverpool Man City, then, Colm, I know you love the Barclays. I know you are a Premier League era man. You absolutely love the rivalries that come with it. Where does this Man City Liverpool rivalry rank in the best Premier League rivalries?
Football wise, it's the best. Definitely the best quality. It probably doesn't have the narrative of Arsenal, Manchester United from 20 years ago, there was so much to watch on and off the pitch. So that for me, but I'm obviously biased as a United fan, but that for me is kind of untouchable. But like, it's not just the game recently, the Liverpool City game, but you have the John Stones off the line game, which is probably the best quality match I've ever seen in the Premier League.
The Champions League games as well.
Yeah, Champions League games, and then the game in Anfield when Riyad Mahrez wasn't at the club long, and he plays the ball over the bar with his penalty, another 0-0. And so, like, you know, for a series of low-scoring games, they're amazing. And the Phil Foden game as well, was it last season or season before, where he just destroyed Liverpool at Anfield. So, like, in terms of quality, I think it's untouchable in the Premier League, but I would have it behind Arsenal United because there was so much to keep an eye on for that. That was for 5 or 6 years. Gold. Absolute gold.
Yeah.
I wish it happened now, lads.
To use a drinking analogy, the Arsenal Man United is probably a Guinness. You know, it's an absolute classic. You'll always go back to it, and you might waver a couple of to a different couple of other drinks, but ultimately you'll come back to Guinness. I would describe Man City Liverpool as maybe a nice glass of Merlot with a steak, because it's refined. You've got the two managers with a lovely game plan, whereas, you know, Man United was just like great crack as opposed to ultimate professionals being tactically nice. Arthur, your final thoughts on the rivalry? Where does it rank in the great rivalries of our time?
Yeah. No, I think you're spot on in terms of nothing touches. Yeah, I don't think anything touches United Arsenal. You just look at how many of those characters are still around, well, players, characters, whatever, are still around now, still just firmly lodged in the kind of public consciousness. It just kind of had a lasting impact. The Liverpool Man City one, I think you're spot on in terms of the quality. It doesn't do much for me in terms of excitement, to be honest with you. I know that sounds almost silly, but like, it doesn't. Like, I'd rather take some of those. Even, I suppose Chelsea didn't really have a rival as such under Mourinho.
I think the North London derby is probably still higher for me.
Even then, Spurs so rarely win it. It's still such a one-way thing. I liked that Mourinho's Chelsea against the world. It probably lacks the same sort of focus, but I did enjoy that. There was something just about that made the way they played as well. I know it wasn't the same quality, but it was very appealing all the same.
Yeah, I think, again, to bring it back to it's a refined rivalry. Like, there's no, it's just pure. It's a pure football rivalry as opposed to having anything to do with like cultural demographics or the history of the two clubs. It's purely on the fact that Pep and Klopp are two of the greatest coaches to ever live, and they have the two best teams in the Premier League over the last 5 years. I think that's like, this rivalry will die out, whereas the Arsenal United thing is everlasting, I feel, and the North London derby is obviously going to be there. But if Pep ever leaves, if Klopp ever leaves, and these clubs, you know, ever go through an Arsenal or Man United phase, I don't think people are going to be looking forward to this, as opposed to, you know, United Arsenal still is kind of a thing. Anyway, that's where we park the Premier League for this week, because there is an international window. Rejoice, there is another international window coming up this weekend. Ireland taking on Azerbaijan and taking on Qatar then on Tuesday as well. So we're going to be talking about that and about Callum Robinson's vaccination comments during the week as well. Stay tuned.
Team 33. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Now, welcome back to Team 33. Enda Coll here with you up until about 10 o'clock. Arthur O'Dea is with me, and is Colm Boohig. We're turning our attention now to the international window. Ireland taking on Azerbaijan this Saturday and then Qatar on Tuesday. The main headlines from this week are not about on the pitch. Once again, there is something to talk about within this Ireland camp, and that is vaccinations and COVID. And Callum Robinson was talking during the week. Callum Robinson obviously missing out on a couple of camps due to COVID. He missed 2 camps. He had COVID twice, and he was asked about vaccinations in the press conference in the lead up to the Azerbaijan game. Here's what he had to say.
So the first time wasn't as bad as the second time. Smell, taste, you know the normal symptoms. The second one, I had a little bit of a bad chest, which was a little bit annoying. So it took probably longer to get back to my full fitness and to get my energy back, because I think it took a little bit more out of me than the first time.
Just on the wider point, there's been a lot of talk recently. Jurgen Klopp was very impassioned last week about the issue, and Stephen says he would prefer if players here were all vaccinated, but he can't force them to get vaccinated. Jurgen Klopp, what's your take? You've had a choice. Do you feel that it should be a condition of being international professional football?
My honest opinion would be it's your choice. Like I wouldn't be to say everyone should be vaccinated or you shouldn't get vaccinated. I think it's your personal choice. If you want to be vaccinated, then go do it. But if you don't want to, it is what it is. It's everyone's choice. I can't tell people to get it, and I can't tell people not to.
Dave?
What's your personal choice, Connor? Have you decided to get vaccinated?
I haven't been vaccinated yet, no. So that's my choice at this moment in time.
So people might think that's unusual given your own personal health experiences recently.
Yeah, of course. As I said, it's obviously annoying that I've caught it twice, but I haven't been vaccinated. Further down the line, I could change my mind and want to do it, but at this moment in time, I haven't been vaccinated. No.
Gavin, do you mind if I ask you why you didn't do that?
I just haven't done it. I think, as I said to man here, it's your personal choice, and my choice at this moment in time. I haven't been vaccinated. I know, as you said, there's managers and people that will want you to do it, which is right in their way of what they think. But everyone has their choice and what they want to do. I wouldn't force it on people to do it or not. It's your choice. It's your body, and where you're going to.
Fair enough. Do you think you lost caps because of it? Could you well have avoided the second time?
Well, the first ones, I'm not sure if I could have even had the vaccination last year. So obviously I missed the two. I think I played one. I played the Serbia away. Slovakia away, sorry, and then there was close contact, and then I actually caught it against just before the England friendly, and I missed 3 games. But I've obviously definitely lost caps through the corona because of the coronavirus, which is it's obviously so annoying. That virus can take away caps from you, but
if the second time you got vaccinated, there was a huge percentage of chance of you not getting it the second time. Do you realise, like, the most recent time?
what, on the other month?
Yeah, if you were vaccinated, you would have, like, Ireland.
Yeah, I know. But that, as I said, that was my choice. I haven't been vaccinated, and that's where I'm at the moment. As I said, if things might change, where I think, I want to get vaccinated, I'm going to do it. But at this moment in time, I haven't made that decision. At the moment, I'm not. No.
All right, so that was Callum Robinson talking about his vaccination situation ahead of Ireland's game against Azerbaijan this weekend. I mean, he says that it's a personal choice and that, it's up to him and it's his body and all this. And it just, for me, it's not really a personal choice if you're affecting people around you. I mean, not only does the vaccination protect you from getting it, it prevents you from spreading it as easily as well. So for me, if you want to play international football, if you want to play professional football, if you want to be involved in camps that, live or die on whether people are available or not, it's probably not as much of a personal choice as you might think.
Totally. Seems mad to me that this has even been allowed to happen, this ambiguity that players may or may not do it. I think players are used to being told what to do all the time by their clubs, and I think this should have just been another part of the protocol and say, lads, let's get vaccinated here. And there could have been exceptions made, I'm sure, but I think we touched on OTB AM this week as well, is that Robinson didn't elaborate there when he was asked, but we're assuming he's being led astray by other reports by players they're sending on to him, but I'm surprised that no one in his life has intervened. But obviously it's a dominating attitude among the players, is that no, it really affects you detrimentally and you won't be the same player after getting your vaccination. So maybe there needs to be a campaign by medical professionals, if that could happen, to say, I promise you will not be affected at all. You will be the exact same player that you were before the vaccination. Because as much as we're complaining about it and be like, oh, it's ridiculous and they should do it, something needs to happen, because obviously they're not going to do it as it stands. So I think there really does need to be a campaign to say, like, I promise you'll be fine, kind of thing. But it's mental. It's crazy. Like, he got it twice and he's describing it as annoying. It's annoying to hear.
Well, Stephen Kenny said that he's not the only one in the camp that hasn't been vaccinated as well. And it just seems bizarre to me. And look, there's obviously situations where he's reading something and it's telling him one thing, and maybe that's not necessarily true. But getting a respiratory disease seems a lot more detrimental to your performance as a professional athlete than getting a vaccination. And what's interesting to me is the amount of footballers that you speak in the post of their career that talk about medical professionals giving them, like, pills to help with pain, things like that. They don't ask questions, they just do it, they just take it. And it's bizarre to me that this is not one of those situations where they just say, you know what, yeah, I'll get vaccinated. I will do whatever I can to keep myself on the pitch. And at the end of the day, Robinson missed time for his club and country because of his actions here and not getting protected to the fullest that he could possibly do. Arthur, this is obviously a sensitive topic. It's obviously a difficult one to judge. And look, at the end of the day, Robinson is sort of right. It is everybody's personal choice whether they want to get the vaccination or not. But you should probably make that choice based upon education and educated choice and what is the best for me and the people around me as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's very hard, I suppose, to be too determinative about it. From my own perspective. So I was vaccinated, but I didn't put any thought into it at all, if you know what I mean. It wasn't like I had to make a decision. So it's kind of hard, I think, to it's hard in certain regards to criticize someone for thinking about it. Just theoretically, maybe not, I don't mean that specifically. Obviously, I have my own thoughts specifically on that, based on action. But in terms of, I would have found it a lot easier, I think, if he'd been more specific about why he didn't want to. Now, maybe he will. Maybe he didn't want it there in front of a whole room of journalists and people he doesn't, know, essentially. Airing that there might not be ideal for him, but it would help, I think, in terms of, as you're saying, with campaigns and trying to get people on board and stuff like that, that if he was to explain it and maybe to engage in some sort of public dialogue with it, it could help. In terms of stuff like forced vaccinations and stuff, I think that's an odd thing to go down. So I don't know if that could happen, but I do probably think at some stage, if things keep going, like maybe, I'm sure it'll stay a relevant issue. You will probably have to get to a point where if you're not vaccinated, that certain things are ruled out to you, that you can't, you can't, I don't know. It's extremely hard, I think, because it is so new and it's such an odd thing to go, if you don't put, X into your body, then you can't participate in this. It's not really something, I don't know. I was trying to think about it, is there anything you can think of or any sort of similar scenario?
No, it's new. It's new for everybody. But what I'm surprised about, it's kind of too late now. They're going to have a couple of new strategies, so they can't make anyone do it now. I'm not saying they ever should have made anyone do it, but I think they should have created the climate, the clubs now, being, we're all getting vaccinated now because it would make us better. And the players would have bought into that if you had packaged it correctly, and they wouldn't have had a second thought. There might have been the odd dispute about it, and maybe one or two players wouldn't have for whatever reason. But I think there's a kind of a sheep mentality, and I think if the majority of the room is doing it, they would have bought into it. So I'm surprised that they just let it off to the players. I'm very surprised if that's what's happened.
Yeah, we're seeing a similar issue with the NBA players as well at the minute.
Yeah, I'm mindful to be incredibly definitive about this because I don't know the circumstances behind the scenes. But looking from the outside in, that would seem to me. But I mean, what I'm saying there is advice in hindsight, which is no good. So I'm talking about going forward. Yeah, I think the narrative needs to change, and you might get the players buying into it then. But it will take time now at this stage. It would really take time. But I'd be really interested in that. Was it roughly 20% of players have been vaccinated? I wonder what made them do it. And could they come out and talk about it?
Yeah, well, there was a thing, wasn't it, this morning? There was a report, or during the week, on Wednesday morning in the Times, there was a report about, I think, some clubs, so Liverpool, Klopp was talking about they're, 99% vaccinated or something like that, so all but done. But then there was, I think, 2 unnamed clubs who were sub 20 or below % of people vaccinated, which is just kind of, it's fascinating how the dichotomy could be that split in terms of these are all people, I suppose, working within the same industry in a relatively small area. Obviously huge population, but it's very interesting. That to me is, I think it was in the Mail as well last week or something. I'm not sure, was it 2/3 have and 1/3 hasn't? I think it's probably 1/3 has, 2/3 haven't, but it's a huge kind of, it's very interesting. I'd be fascinated to know what is informing this decision. Why are people because they're not fools. Like it's not you know what I mean, or not, there's not like they're not they're clearly, I don't know like what it is about it that makes them less likely to just take the vaccine.
Well, here's the thing. There was a scheme in the 1990s that a lot of professional footballers fell a victim to in terms of investments. It was an investment firm into British films, and a lot of early day Premier League players were scammed essentially by this Ponzi scheme that people were investing, and they lost loads of money. And it came out that footballers were prime targets because they were people who had not gone on to higher education. They had left school at 15 years old. They didn't really have an education as such. Their education was football. They went through academies. They went through sort of apprenticeship things, and they were very easy targets because they weren't really life trained, I guess is the right way to do it. And now if you look at the modern day footballer, they're the same. They're dragged out of school at 14, 15 if they want to go on to Premier League football. They play in academies. They do a little bit of schooling within the systems, but again, they're not higher educated people who have a lot of life experience outside the bubble of what is a professional footballer's life from the age of 15. And they spend most of their time on social media because they have nothing else to do, because they aren't going out drinking, they aren't going out to the cinema, they can't really experience normal life. So you can imagine how, if people are being targeted specifically on Facebook with these misinformation situations, that footballers would be again prime targets for this sort of misinformation, because they're constantly on social media. They're constantly not seeing what might be the correct information. And maybe it's just a sense that, they're just getting the wrong information here. And that's where I think Colin's point comes in, is that, they need to be either, educated properly in what the vaccination process is about, what's it supposed to do, and why it's important to get it done, outside of the fact that they can get it. It's about other people getting it. It's about the people who are working with them, like medical professionals, physios, trainers. They have to go home to their families as well. So it's not just about what Callum Robinson is saying, where, okay, he got it twice, so that doesn't matter. It's about other people getting it off him and potentially not having as strong an immune system as he has to fight it off. So I think it's a clear-cut issue. I think clubs should be saying, right, you're professional footballers, you're getting paid a massive amount of money to play for us every single week. Take the vaccination or you're not playing. Because
it's a group mentality too, and because it's not just about targeting, limitedly educated people. I
completely agree. I don't want to be coming off as if I'm calling Premier League footballers stupid. I just say they're good targets for it.
No, you gave that as an example, which is absolutely correct for the reasons you gave. But like, all society is susceptible to this. There was the Aircom shares in Ireland in 1999-2000, and everybody wanted to get on board on that. Like, and you were a fool if you didn't.
You're watching that during the week, yeah?
That's fresh in the mind. And it just stood out to me there when Enda was naming that example. But yeah, it's so odd seeing the likes of Thomas Tuchel come out in press conferences and say, like, oh yeah, as far as I know, some of the players here aren't getting it. And it's such a separation, and it's like, this goes way beyond football, way beyond. Like, this is a societal issue. But I'd be on your side of it, Enda. I think it is cut and dry. I think literally they need people to come in and say, look, lads, this is honestly the benefit of it. I swear to you, like, it's not going to impact you negatively. Like, just get it done, and you and your family will be safe forever. I know you're not going to get sick. You're fit and healthy, but your family might. It'll be out of your mind. You can get on with the season. Happy days. This will all be behind us. Maybe it needs that attitude, but I don't know. I'm not privy to behind the scenes, obviously, and none of us are. But that's what I would think, looking from the outside in.
Yeah, exactly. That's about all we can do.
It might all come out. But I'm fascinated about the Liverpool take-up that Arthur was saying there. Yeah. I wonder, is that Jurgen Klopp? And maybe we're putting too much credit onto Jurgen Klopp, but Klopp is such a motivator and such a galvanizer of people. I just wonder, did he come and say, like, come on, lads, like, I got it, and look at me, I'm fine.
Yeah, I just think as if I were to put myself in the shoes of a Premier League manager, I would be saying to my players, look, this makes you 80-90% less likely to be out injured or be out sick for 2 weeks. Take the vaccine or you're not playing. I am not having you a threat to my dressing room. If you're going to be in mixing with my players, if you're going to be training with everyone else, I'm not allowing you to bring the risk of getting COVID and giving it to 5 or 6 other players who should not have it otherwise. That's exactly what I'd be saying. And I realize that there are wider issues involved in this, but I think it's maybe stamp your authority a bit. This is a serious issue that could cause 5 or 6 different players to be out injured for a big match. Imagine, say, for example, the Liverpool team were one of those minus 20% teams. Imagine one player gets COVID within that. And against Man City, they don't have Mo Salah. They don't have Sadio Mane. They don't have Firmino. They don't have Wijnaldum. All these players are in, well, they wouldn't have Wijnaldum anyway, but all these 4 or 5 different players are injured. You don't get that 2-2 game. You get a 4-0 thrashing. And that's where I would be approaching it in terms of a Premier League footballer.
The practicality of it, it's very... I don't think so it's still nominally anyway a workplace. So you can't realistically just tell someone, well, you can't come to work anymore because you're not doing this. It just doesn't.
Some places have taken that approach.
Yeah, I don't know how well it would hold up though. I don't know, especially if it's a case of, and again, I don't want to test. You don't want to test the camaraderie of players too much, but what would certain players at other clubs feel if one, because they would get out if people felt under duress to do this, that their career was under threat. I know we're getting very into the weeds in it, and different individual approaches, but it doesn't seem to be fairly resilient. If they're being this, if he's that, not, I don't think he was necessarily brazen. He was just being sort of honest with his approach. But if Callum Robinson was happy enough to come out and say that, with a relatively minor profile, I suppose, to some of his peers in the Premier League or whatever, I don't think it would take too much if people felt under duress or that they were being forced to do it. For that to kick up a lot of fuss.
Yeah, it's really tough to know, especially from the outside in. I would imagine a lot more information will come out on this over the next few months and perhaps into the years as COVID continues on. We're getting to the near the end of our program. I should mention before we go that the Pogma Goal magazine, the annual magazine coming from Ireland, the only football magazine that comes out every year, some really good stuff in it. It's available to pre-order this Friday. If you're listening on the radio, that is today, you can pre-order the magazine. It will have a piece from yours truly. This is a shameless plug. It's about Little Donegal is the name of the title. It's about the link between Donegal, Scotland, and what effect that had on Irish football. So you have, Ray Houghton has relations in Donegal. Owen Coyle has relations in Donegal. Ed McGeady frequently came over for the summer. And beyond that, James McCarthy and the impact and sort of the way that Scotland has this weird link with Donegal. So that is coming in the Pogma Goal magazine this week. Arthur, you're from around the same area that Brother Walfred is from, aren't you?
Yeah, but not too far. I'm from just outside Sligo town. My mother's from Caish, the next kind of major town will be Ballymote. And there's the wee, I think it's a bust just of his head, and just down there by the train station, I think. So I was actually quite proud of those routes. Yeah, I don't know. There's not as much. It's interesting. So because I didn't grasp. When you were talking before on OTB AM on the Mount Rushmore, and I think it was yourself and Kieran Cunningham were on, and you were talking about Paddy Bonner, how he was just a shoe in on this list, and it was even if he didn't, I think Kieran Cunningham might have said, even if he hadn't done what he did for Ireland, by way of, say, Italian 90 and stuff, just by virtue of the fact that he played for Celtic for so long, that would be enough for him to be up here because that is so important in Donegal. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the piece I do want to say, it's not just about Celtic. It's about the wider links. For some reason we drink Tennent's where I'm from. You can hear it in our accents. We have the same twangs. And there was a great video of the Gweedore of Gweedore in the south of Donegal. There was a cavalcade, and it wasn't because they won the club championship. It was because Celtic had tied up the 9th title in a row. Yeah. And there was an actual party in the town because Celtic had won. That's how deep these links go. But we love talking about the trains and the lack of infrastructure in Donegal. There was actually there was a bus that ran weekly, every single week from Donegal to Glasgow. That people would go over and meet their families and frequently go over to Scotland more than they would go to Dublin. They'd go to Glasgow.
What's the basis of the link? Sorry, is it just completely to do migration or? So
yeah, it goes back to what were known as tatty pickers, which are potato farmers who went over when there was they were badly needed in Scotland, and kind of when they weren't really needed in Ireland in the migration eras of the late 1800s, firstly, and then secondly in the 1950s. So that's really where it comes from, is the potato farmers going over to Scotland and them coming back and families and things like that. So it's not as much to do with the plantation as you might imagine. It's actually more to do with Irish people fecking off and going to Scotland where they needed some good potato pickers.
Yeah. That's class. That's so interesting though. Just that crossover. I didn't realize, I didn't realize it was ever that rooted, if you know what I mean, like in actual, like I suppose in actual shared experience of place and stuff. That's I remember. I don't know, Colm, you'll definitely have seen it as well. What was that? Beyond the Promised Land. Remember that Man United documentary that came out after they won the treble?
Yeah.
And I don't know where it was from. Obviously, this wasn't too long after sort of Oma bombing and stuff and the troubles, that escalation of it. But I remember as well, there was busloads of people going over from Northern Ireland every week to Manchester, to Old Trafford, whatever, every 2 weeks, whatever, to watch matches. But just like as if it's their local team, like just that similar bonds, I presume, formed by similar things with migration. I know family of mine went and migrated to Manchester on both sides of my family, I think from Sligo and from Limerick. So yeah, those bonds are pretty tight. I didn't realise that Celtic link is. Looking forward to reading that.
Yeah, that West of Ireland Manchester connection is massive. It's where the Gallagher brothers are from, Enda.
Yeah.
Yeah, Liam Gallagher playing guitar in a pub in Mayo a couple of years ago.
I went by that pub. I'd been in that pub a separate time, JJ Finance, and I went by it recently on the way to Sligo as I was in Arthur. I was up there. So I like the end of this pad. I thought it was on a different pad there for a second.
We'll start a pod like that at some stage, but that is all we have time for on this week's Team 33. Arthur, cheers.
Thanks, man. Chat to you again, Enda.
Colm Boohig, it's like you've never been away. Thanks.
Cheers, boys. Take it easy.
All right. We'll take a quick break.